Two of the biggest rivals in Formula One history, Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost's relationship first began to sour at Imola in 1989. After qualifying first and second on the grid, the McLaren teammates agreed that whoever arrived into the first corner in the lead would not be contested for the race win. Senna led off the line, but the race was red flagged following Gerhard Berger's horrific accident at Tamburello. With Berger escaping the inferno with a cracked rib and second-degree burns, the race was restarted. Only this time, Prost made the better start, jumping Senna into turn 1. But the Frenchman was furious to see Senna repass him later that lap. The Brazilian felt that as the race had been restarted, he'd already beaten Prost into turn 1 on the original race start. And so the agreement was still in his favour, while Prost felt the second start meant the agreement had been reset. It was a moment that would come to define their rivalry and establish many years of tension between the two. Ayrton Senna's breakthrough Formula One race was the 1984 Monaco Grand Prix, in which the Brazilian came just short of winning for the uncompetitive Tollman team. In torrential rain, Senna moved up from 13th on the grid to second behind Prost. As Senna chased down the McLaren, Prost, who was suffering from a brake imbalance, waved desperately for the race to be stopped. The stewards agreed it was too dangerous to continue and ended the race at the end of the 32nd lap, handing the Frenchman victory and leaving Senna to wait a little bit longer for his first race win. 1988 was Senna's first year with McLaren, where he first joined forces with the then two-time world champion Prost. With both drivers having won 3 races from the opening 6 rounds, they were already fighting hard for supremacy. At the French Grand Prix, the duo were involved in a thrilling battle for the win. Eventually, Prost, who'd been hunting down his rival, made his move at the high-speed Courbe de Seine to take over at the front and fly to victory in front of a delighted home crowd. After 9 rounds of the 1988 season, Prost and Senna were still trading race wins, and the championship looked set to go down to the wire between the master and the apprentice. Having secured another 1-2 for the team in Germany, the McLaren teammates were involved in an amusing post-race exchange.
What happens now, you two?
Good fun. We will have good fun from now on.
Maybe we fight outside the car.
No, I think it's gonna get more and more exciting, the championship.
Is it possible to be equal? The championship?
No. Can only be one winner.
Prost and Senna had been fighting over 4th place at the 1991 German Grand Prix, until Prost, now in a Ferrari, tried a move around the outside. Senna held the inside line, forcing Prost to straight line the chicane, before stalling his car while waiting for a marshal to remove a cone and retiring from the race.
If I find him again the same way, if he's correct the same way, I push him out.
I think everyone knows Prost by now. He is always complaining either by the car or the tires or the team or the mechanics or the fuel or the other drivers or the circuit. It's always somebody else's blame. It's never his fault.
Having sat out the 1992 season, there was mounting speculation that Alain Prost would return to the sport with the dominant Williams team for 1993. Rumours to which Ayrton Senna responded furiously when it emerged Prost had a veto against Senna joining him as a teammate.
It's impossible to accept somebody to come to a team February in the year with a signed contract, veto myself and himself too, and eventually they change his side but stay with the veto on myself. And I think if Prost wants to be called the sole champion, 3 times world champion, come back in a sportive way, maybe win another championship, he should be sportive. The way he's doing, he's behaving like a coward.
In 1988, Senna knew that victory in Japan would secure him his first Drivers' Championship. But the race started badly for the Brazilian when he stalled from pole position, immediately dropping him back to 14th place. But the determined Senna would not give up, charging through the field and making up 6 places on the opening lap alone, and running a remarkable 4th by only lap 4. The incredible drive culminated with Senna catching and passing Prost to earn victory and an emotional first World Championship.
It feels great, of course. I feel very happy and it's a great feeling.
Alain Prost's final Formula One race came at the 1993 Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide and saw an amicable exchange between the two great rivals on the podium. Senna, having won the race, invited Prost up to the top step with him, congratulating the Williams driver on his incredible career. It was a symbolic moment of their repaired relationship and a fitting way for Prost, now a four-time world champion, to bow out.
When we were on the podium in Adelaide, he changed completely the way he was with me. And from this day, a few days later, he called me. He was the first one to call me. And then he kept going during the winter. So I can say, yes, in this way, he is a friend.
Senna and Prost's rivalry became a global news story at the 1989 championship decider at Suzuka. Senna needed to win to keep his title hopes alive, and though Prost was leading the race, he was under intense pressure from his teammate. With time running out, Senna made his move into the final chicane. Prost turned in, and the two came together.
This is the opportunity that Senna's looking for, and he's going through. Ouch! Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. They beat. This is what we were fearing might happen during the race, and that means to say that Prost has won the World Championship.
Prost climbed out of his cockpit to retire, but Senna got the marshals to release his car and get him going again. His relentless pursuit of glory saw him pit for a new front wing before catching and passing Alessandro Nannini. But although he took the checkered flag, his delight was cut short as the stewards disqualified him after the race for rejoining the track illegally and thus handing that season's championship to Prost. It remains one of the most controversial moments in Formula One history.
I refuse to walk away from the fight. It's my nature to go right to the end, and that's what I'm going to do.
To be very honest, I'm quite happy to leave because I think it becomes absolutely impossible to work with Ayrton.
1 year later at Suzuka, it was Prost, now at Ferrari, that needed to beat Senna to continue his championship hopes. Despite qualifying in first place, Senna was angry that his pole position grid slot was off the usual grippier racing line and on the dirty side of the track, and felt this gave an unfair advantage to his title rival Prost. His attempts to have it switched pre-race were unsuccessful and filled to the brim with tension and emotion. When the race began, it was Prost who got the better start, leading Senna to infamously send his McLaren into a narrowing gap as they entered turn 1.
Senna is trying to go through on the inside, and it's happened immediately. This is amazing. Senna goes off at the first corner. Well, that is amazing, but I fear absolutely predictable.
Their collision meant the 1990 championship was Senna's, but the incident left a bitter taste throughout the sport.
By being a racing driver, you are under risk all the time. And by being a racing driver means you are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. Because we are competing. We are competing to win. And the main motivation to all of us is to compete for a victory.
O Schumacher tenta botar pressão em cima de Ayrton Senna nesta sexta volta. Senna bateu forte. Ali na Tamburello, batida muito forte.
got him out of the cockpit, got his helmet off, and got an airway into him. And I saw from his neurological science that it was going to be a fatal head injury. And then he sighed and his body relaxed. And that was the moment, and I'm not religious, that I thought his spirit had departed.
Michael Schumacher had struggled to reach the heights for which he was famed during his second stint as a Formula One driver. But at Monaco in 2012, the German drove an utterly scintillating lap to take what would have been the final pole position of his career. A grid penalty for a previous infringement dropped him to 6th on the grid, but it took nothing away from what had been a superb performance and a reminder to all of the genius behind the wheel. At the 1995 European Grand Prix, Schumacher was hunting down Jean Alesi, going wheel to wheel in the fight for victory. Then, with 3 laps to go, Michael made his move.
Yes! Michael Schumacher takes the lead in the Grand Prix of Europe, and the Benetton team go berserk with delight.
A fantastic overtake around the outside of the chicane gave him the race win, and topped off an incredible drive that had seen him take 25 seconds out of Alesi in the 15 laps prior to his pass.
To say for Michael to win with 3 stops, this is for me, he probably rates it amongst his best wins, so big congratulations to him.
Having won the first 4 races of 1994, the Spanish Grand Prix proved to be a little trickier for Schumacher, as he found himself stuck in 5th gear for most of the race. Despite driving with an issue that would have seen many drivers retire, he not only raced on, but was able to match the pace of race leader and eventual winner Damon Hill, the Benetton driver fighting his way home to finish in an excellent 2nd place. Schumacher was chasing victory at Spa-Francorchamps in 1992. In changeable conditions, Michael felt the time was right to switch to dry tyres, and it was an inspired decision. Once those ahead had made their stops, Michael had taken the race lead, and he held on to claim the first of his 91 career victories at the very track on which he'd made his Grand Prix debut just 1 year before.
I don't know why, but when I was in the motorhome today, I thought I'm able to win this race. And I thought, I think my dream doesn't come up. And then suddenly the situation changed. I went in for dry tyres, and it was absolutely at the right moment. I really can't describe it. I mean, it's something crazy.
Fighting Fernando Alonso for the 2006 World Championship, Schumacher delivered a stunning performance at the Brazilian Grand Prix that matched even the most memorable of his race victories. A puncture on lap 9 dropped him to the back of the field, and almost a lap down. But he refused to give up, passing nearly the entire field on his way back to 4th place, finishing just 24 seconds off the race winner. He missed out on the Drivers' Championship, but he won all the plaudits in his final race for Ferrari. Schumacher made his debut with the Jordan team at the 1991 Belgian Grand Prix, standing in for the team's regular driver, Bertrand Gachot. The 22-year-old German was immediately on the pace and would qualify 7th fastest, 4 places higher than his experienced teammate Andrea De Cesaris. Sadly, his race would be cut short on the opening lap with clutch failure, but this one qualifying session had already done enough to attract the attention of other teams and earned him an immediate switch to Benetton.
You must be very happy with your result.
Yeah, sure, I'm really happy. The car feels really good, and it makes a lot of fun to drive, and also for the time, I'm really happy, yeah.
In 1998, Mika Häkkinen was 16 points clear with 5 races to go, and Schumacher knew he needed a strong result. With the Finn leading in Hungary, Ferrari tried something different.
Catching traffic, I want them in this lap. Pronti, tutti fuori, tutti fuori.
Schumacher switched to a 3-stop strategy, but he needed to post qualifying-style laps every lap for the whole race to give himself a chance of beating the McLarens. Setting fastest lap after fastest lap, he stormed to the race victory, thanks to a combination of team strategy and one of his finest drives.
I mean, you dream about the ideal result, and that was one of the dreams I have.
Having been caught out in a wet-dry qualifying session, Schumacher started from 16th place on the grid in Belgium in 1995. However, come race day, he mastered the changeable conditions, making a string of overtakes and fighting off his great rival, Damon Hill, to take top spot on the podium.
From 16th on the grid, did you really believe you could win this one?
I knew it's going to be possible to drive certainly in the points and even probably on the rostrum, but to be first, no, I didn't believe this.
Having sustained a broken leg earlier in the year, Schumacher returned for the final 2 rounds of the 1999 season, with some critics doubting if his trademark pace would still be there. But in qualifying he went a full second quicker than anyone else, blitzing the opposition to take one of the most commanding pole positions of his career and silence his doubters. It was a truly remarkable comeback.
We expected to be strong, and I mentioned that several times this weekend. But to be second ahead, that was clearly surprising.
Arguably Michael's finest ever moment came at the 1996 Spanish Grand Prix, taking victory in torrential conditions. Having struggled with his Ferrari all season, especially in wet conditions, his performance on the day was out of this world and was a signal to all of his critics that here was a racer beholden of genuine greatness. Having cleared Jean Alesi, Schumacher then caught and passed Jacques Villeneuve to set up what would be not only one of his finest ever Formula One victories, but his first win with the Ferrari team with whom he would write his name indelibly in the history of the sport.
Michael Schumacher wins the Spanish Grand Prix after an absolutely superlative drive.
It's amazing. If anyone would have asked me how much I would bet on this, I wouldn't have even bet.
This is Lewis from the future. That I wanted to give you some thoughts as you're making your debut in Formula One. And it's going to be an incredible journey, but I want to kind of give you some tips in order for you to maybe handle the speed bumps a little bit better. Try to be more confident in yourself. I think up until now, being bullied, all the different things that went on through school, pull your shoulders back, have your head a little bit higher, and have the confidence you deserve to be here, no matter what anyone says. Positivity is everything. Live it to the fullest. There's so much potential in you, more than anyone else that's you're racing against. So give it everything.
fucking superstars, feeling like a pop star. Drinking Henny, bad bitches jumping in the pool and they ain't got on no bra. Hit her front or back, pulling on the tracks and now she screaming out no more. They like Savage, why you got a 12-car garage and you only got 6 cars?
As he rounds the final corner, it's high fives from Lewis Hamilton, a 5-time champion of the world.
Hey Lewis, congrats, man. That's how you do it, baby. Just like I taught you. That's how you do it. Just like that. That's how you supposed to drive.
It's Lewis Hamilton, champion of the world.
Get in there, Lewis. What a drive, mate. That is it. Champion of the world. Did it in style, mate. You did that in style.
Still we rise, guys. Still we rise. What an incredible weekend. Thank you so much, guys, for today. And to everyone that came out. I can't believe it.
Man, I feel just like a rock star.
And you still have as much fun driving as you had when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
Really?
Yeah.
How old are you when you were behind the wheel?
8. I started when I was 8. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky, I think. Every time, like tomorrow, I get in the car again, I get to drive on this incredible track. I come up that straight and our, thoughts go through my mind from when I was watching the Grand Prix when I was younger. The engine, the field, I mean, geez, it's like the best roller coaster ride that you could possibly imagine, but you're in control of it.
Where does self-confidence come from?
I think it's something my dad's, I'm very, very lucky. My dad was with me since I was young. I was bullied at school. I was always kind of one of the smaller kids. But then when I got it, and I struggled at school. Schooling was really a tough period of time for me. But once I got in the car, I felt this awesome power. I had my helmet on, no one could see my face, and I could compete with these guys, and I could outsmart them, and I could put the car in places that kids couldn't even imagine. And that gave me a huge amount of confidence.
In such a high level of excellency in sports, what decides the matches or the races is the emotional state of each competitor. And so do you attribute your emotional basis to your father and the family, the way it's constituted?
I think what's contributed is I remember the struggle. I remember my dad coming back and telling me, he said, if you work hard at school, I'll keep you racing. And I remember him coming back and saying, I don't have any money to keep you racing this weekend, and I don't know when we're going to have money again. And I remember being brokenhearted. I wanted to compete that weekend. So I remember just the struggle that we had. I also remember the adversity we faced, being the only black family on the track. And I remember the things that were shouted at me and us. And I remember we just kept our heads down. And I remember.
What kind of shouting?
Well, on the scene there was racial abuse out there, and we weren't always particularly welcomed. But we just kept to ourselves and went and did. My dad said, always do your talking on the track.
Like a bullet train, moving like the speed of sound. Feet can't keep on the ground, can't stay in one place.
Hamilton makes a move on Raikkonen.
Keep moving train.
Round two, Raikkonen regains the lead of the Italian Grand Prix, and Monza goes wild. DRS race going to have a go as well. He's passed Raikkonen before him back into
Moving like the speed of sound.
Hamilton slows to this time around, only half a second as they cross the line. Hamilton moves out and has to go from
on the ground.
around the outside with Kimi Raikkonen. Can he take the lead of the Italian Grand Prix? Yes,
Can't
he
stay
can.
in
Kimi
one
Raikkonen.
place. Keep moving like a bullet train. Like a bullet train. Like a bullet train.
Hamilton is much closer as they head towards turn two. Leader and second are still under threat. And this time Hamilton goes round the outside in turn four. Goes off the track in turn. Put the medium on Lewis Hamilton as well. Send it back. Say right, go catch. Down the main straight. Pulls out to the right hand side and makes his way round and into the lead. Mercedes Hamilton gaining all time. Vettel drops it on the inside. Hamilton goes round the outside and swoops.
Hamilton resisted and held on.
Cause I can't stop time. You keep blurring in my mind. And spaces undefined. These tracks left behind. You can't stay the same. Can't stop this train. I can't find the brakes on this bullet train. Like a bullet train.